Hi, I'm Cass.
And I am Lee.
And this is Cass Lee Productions.
Yippee.
So, today what we're doing is another talk video, actually.
Convo.
So today what we're actually doing is we're talking about the differences in how we are raised. Because I was raised with a twin sister. She was raised with a
2-year older sister.
And then with my sister and I, we are the exact same age, except we were totally different. And today we wanted to talk about how our relationships developed with our sisters.
Or why we think our relationship is the way it is. Because we're not psychologists.
Right.
And one course does not count as certified psychologist people.
I've had two courses.
I've had 2 courses. One in high school, one in college.
I had 2 in college.
So she's more professional than me.
Yeah, but I've gone to more college.
That's true too. Freaking fast fun computer. I hate it. It's not good for my ADHD people. Not good.
So do we want to get started?
That's probably a good idea.
Okay.
Okay.
So, what I do want to say is our relationships with our sisters are very, very different, and we're pretty similar, except she is ADHD and I'm a little bit more chill.
She's not the hyperactive part of this.
Right.
Of whatever this is.
Right. But we have all the same interests. We actually have fairly similar mannerisms.
And taste to some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we have our food points of conflict, one of them obviously being horror.
That's true.
But for the most part, we have the similar taste in books and stuff. Like, I'll read a book and give it to Cassie and she'll love it. She'll read a book and give it to me and I'll love it, so.
That's true. We definitely have very similar interests in, the kind of media we consume.
Yes.
And her sister has similar interests with that as well, correct?
Correct. Me and her are kind of similar to what we like. There's some things that she's more different than I am when it comes to, I guess, human rights in general. If it's something she believes, if she's watching, is not, how do I put this? Something that's not cool, like the way they treat mental patients, or how it doesn't exactly always line up for what the actual mental illness is, or if technically it's fantasizing bad relationships, like toxic relationships. She refuses to watch those kind of things just because she doesn't want to promote that.
Okay. Okay.
So besides that, we have similar tastes, because I will watch that stuff and still be like, well, I know this isn't how a relationship should be, so it's fine.
Yeah. And with me and my sister, I, for one, do not like consuming any, media that's about romance at all, relationships, or anything like that.
And I'm fine with reading those, so.
Right.
That's one other difference between us, but.
Yeah. Obviously, we're not the same person.
I mean, yes, if you're the same person, that would be freaky.
Yeah. But with my sister, we were both raised to be pretty big readers, right? And my dad liked sci-fi. My mom liked romance and historical fiction. Couldn't read anything fantasy. And when my sister and I were little, I always wanted to read fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that. And my sister preferred fiction, romance, and stuff, kind of the stuff that my mom read, but young adult fiction. My sister loved YA fiction, and now she doesn't read at all. Hasn't picked up a book in years, I'm sure. And don't you and your sister still read a lot?
Kira reads more on her phone now, but she still reads a lot.
Yeah. I
mean, before, me and her were definitely more solid book people. I'm still a solid book person. I can't read books online at all. My sister can. I'm not. I can't. There's something about focus that I can't if it's on a computer when it comes to that.
I can't focus with my phone either.
Unless I'm reading manga or something like that, but I usually do that while watching TV anyways, so with my ADHD-ness, I can listen to the TV show and read at the same time, so.
Do you absorb both of the plot lines?
Let's say there's definitely some blanks when it comes generally to the TV show, not when it comes to the manga.
Okay.
But I can still keep up and know that at least the general plot line at the end of what I just watched.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fun being ADHD. That's how I eavesdrop on people a lot of the times, by accident, because I can hear people while I'm reading. Some people don't think I can, and that is the most amusing thing ever, folks. I have fun stories to tell about that.
Yeah. There's been a couple of times where I'm reading, like, I'll be reading at the student center at my college, and there will be people talking, and I'll just hear my name, and I'll go, what? And they'll all start laughing because they were saying something about me, and I did not hear it.
Yeah, because most people apparently can't read and listen to conversation at the same time, because whenever they see someone reading a book, they just assume that you can't hear them, and I'm just that person who sits there like, I can hear you. I'm concentrating really, really hard. Like, if there's too much background noise, like I guess in a cafeteria, or everyone's talking in the classroom, then I usually tune it out. But if it's just like I'm sitting at a table and 1 or 2 people are talking, I can listen.
Yeah. So with her and her sister, they grew up to be pretty close, you would say.
Yes.
From my view, they're very close. And then with me and my sister, once 3rd grade hit, my sister didn't want to do anything with me. Like, she wanted to pretend I didn't exist. We would get into fights all the time. And it wasn't until senior year of high school she started acting buddy-buddy. And then she tried to drag me into drugs and underage drinking and all of that kind of stuff. And I've been cutting our relationship off a little bit, like, the past couple of years, just because I don't want her influence. And now explain the relationship with your sister.
Well, me and my sister, I would say, are pretty close. Than I most know. Me and her don't. We still fight as siblings, but I call it. None of us really feels hurt generally when we fight, unless it's about some kind of serious-ish topic. Depending on what it is, or how much we've been putting up with the other one to some degree. But we're generally pretty close, and I think it's because when my parents divorced, there was a lot of traveling from one house to another. So we didn't have one constant parent, so I think me and my sister grew closer because of that, and we relied more on each other. Like, my sister technically became a second mom to me when I was at my dad's house, and then she forgot to turn it off when we come to mom's house, which was a point of contention for a while. Still is every now and then, but it's not as bad as it used to be, and she tries really hard not to do that, which I appreciate. And we're always pretty civil when we bring things up about each other, and we try to talk it out, and sometimes, yes, we do get hurt, but we apologize to each other afterwards, and we get along very well, so...
So another thing I wanted to say about how, with, like, my sister is, my parents didn't divorce. My mom recently passed away, and so now there's a, like, a new,
Dynamic?
Yeah, I guess so. With my, like, parenting situation, but since Caitlin and I are both 20, like, we're not being, like, taught anything, like, as children, you know? But whenever we fight, recently, like, the past, 3 years, I would say, like, the most recent fight we had was, she wanted me to pick her up, because she didn't have her car, and she got bored, when she went somewhere and she went to my uncle's house with my dad and told my dad that he would help her, or she would help him with, like, whatever they were doing. And so she called me and was like, I'm bored, will you pick me up? And I just went, no. Actually called me, and I was like, it sounds like you guys are going to leave soon. It's a 15-minute drive. I really don't want to do that. And I'm pretty sure my gas tank was close to empty. And so I just straight up told her no, because you're allowed to tell people no if you don't want to do it. You don't have to have a reason other than not wanting to do it.
Yeah, you can think for yourself. In fact, I have a hard trouble saying no to people.
I do too. And my sister is probably a lot of the reasons why, because she ended the call with saying, we're not friends anymore. Oh. And then just straight up ended it. And obviously I was upset, so I just texted her. And I was like, we haven't been friends for a long time, because I don't view her as a friend anymore, and I haven't for a very long time. Or 2 years. That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that.
And she just sent back, like, a sarcastic smiley face, you know, like a text smiley face, and then I didn't talk to her. Next day, like the day after this, she walks into my room and starts acting like we're buddy-buddy again. Nothing happened. It really bothered me because, like, I wanted to, like, not have to deal with her for a little bit, because when she gets mad at me, she typically gives me the cold shoulder, which, for me, I don't really have to deal with anything with her. Like, I just she doesn't talk to me, and I don't have to worry about saying no to her or saying, like, I don't want to do that, or, like, hey, like, I'm busy, like, I don't want to drop everything for you.
Yeah.
So.
Because I had a friend who was sort of like that, I think was in second grade, and they'd be like, whenever they got upset with me, they'd say, we're not friends anymore, and they'd storm off, and the next day they'd all be my friend, and I was like, I would always be like, one time I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, what? And I'm like, she's like, I'm your friend, right? I'm like, no. And she's like, I thought we were friends. And I'm like, you told me we weren't friends anymore.
And this was in second grade, correct?
Yes.
So, viewers, my sister acts like a child a lot.
Yeah, so, because I just remembered that, and I remember being so upset with that friend, because, you know, I've never had a friend tell me I'm not being your friend anymore, especially at that age, and I was really upset. I think I even cried when I got home. I mean, she had caused me so much emotional grief, and then she just takes it back, and it's like, no, and we're still friends, actually. But I'm just, it's like she did that to me so many times when I was younger, I just stopped taking her seriously anymore about that. I was just like, fine, whatever.
Yeah, like with my sister, she's done it so much over the past, not like specifically told me, quote unquote, we're not friends anymore, but like she's got mad at me, giving me the cold shoulder. Like she's done that so much, I've gotten like desensitized to the point where it's like, well, okay, that's up to you. I don't really care at this point.
Yeah.
And so, a obvious difference we can see here between our sisterly relationships are hers has communication, mine does not.
Yeah, because me and my sister do our best to communicate, and sometimes we don't talk about it because we're a bit passive-aggressive in our family, so it kind of simmers under the surface and then explodes all at once.
Fun.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
And then we both kind of feel hurt, but then we stop and think about what each other said, and then we're like, okay, you have a point here and here, but I don't think this was fair. Or, you know, here or here. So,
yeah.
You know, point A, point 1, point 2, point B.
And that's, like, the last part of that, that's a healthy way to deal with something like that. Mm-hmm. And for me, my sister just pretends it never happened.
Yeah, and it's obviously in relationships, you need to address, like, issues like that. So.
And if I bring it up again, she's going to get upset all over again, not going to talk to me, cut me off, like, or not like, give me the cold shoulder, I mean, and just stop talking to me. So there's no use even trying to communicate with her.
And yeah, and I also think one other difference is me and Kira are we have very great emotional support from one another. In that regards, we're really each other's emotional pillars to some degree when it comes to different anxieties, her, you know, that stuff that's happening in her life and the stuff that's happening in my life. She's like the first person I call when I'm having some sort of like anxiety attack, because she knows how to calm me down and she knows what I want to hear, and that helps. Because if I call my mom or for my dad, you know, that's okay. I've been lately leaning on Cassidy a bit more every now and then, more than my sister, and I think that's good because I can't rely on my sister for everything. I need to learn to lean on other people besides her.
Yeah.
So I've chosen Cassidy.
Thank you. I'm glad to be chosen. Lee has been my chosen person for a long time. Because, like, with my sister, there was no emotional support. Like, for, like, maybe, like, half a year or a year, I was, like, decently close with her, and I would go to her with, like, hey, like, I'm having anxiety about this, or I would, just, like, text her, like, anxiety, like, you know, like, emotional support stuff, like, hey, like, I'm looking for you to help me, I guess.
With this or that, or I need your advice, or I'm feeling really weird about this or that, and I need some help figuring this out. Please help me.
Yes. She said that better than I said that. And she would respond, completely ignore what I said, and be like, start talking about, like, oh, like, she's having all of these anxiety things, and, like, oh, like, she's having boy trouble, or, like, she's having, like, I have no art ideas, give me art ideas. And I would, be like, okay, whatever. Give her some...
More like an exchange of woes rather than support.
Right. And so I would have to be like, okay, well, I'm sorry, like, you're being anxious. And then I eventually stopped, talking to her about that kind of stuff because I knew I wasn't ever going to get, like, a response I wanted. And recently, I actually texted her something, like, it had been a while since I texted her, like, something that was emotional support, and I think it was, like, something like, hey, do you think I have this negative trait? And she goes, I don't know, I don't know you well enough. And, like, that really just, like, opened, like, my eyes, like, yeah, like, I'm never going to have a good relationship with my sister, like, it's...
Because you're the only one putting the work in.
Exactly! I'm the only one putting the work in. And, like, with, all of my other friends, like, they also put work in. Like, Caitlin never texts me first. Almost all of my friends text me first, unless they have, like, either first text anxiety or ADHD. Although, you do text me first sometimes.
Yes, sometimes. I'd say it probably happens 3 times in a year, maybe.
In the summer, I think it's been a little bit better. Yeah. But I've also, because there will be times where, like, while I'm in college, I won't text her. Like, the semester before we started doing the weekly Skypes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't text her at all because I just forgot, and then she would forgot. Then we started doing weekly Skype calls to work on our stories and talk, and so I was texting her, like, almost every day, and even now, I think I still text you almost every day.
Yeah, or at least, you know, we text each other at least 3 times a week at the least.
Yeah.
And I remember it's kind of being in college, and sometimes I would initiate it first, like, was it the texting, because I'd be like, man, I need to text Cassidy. Man, I need to text Cassidy, and eventually that would happen in the span of within 2 weeks, and I'd eventually remember, or she'd text me before I would remember.
Yeah. And, like, with my sister, she never even thought to text me. So, like, obviously, like, even just, like, conversation, like, texting someone is a big thing in friendships. So, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of friendship with my sister.
Yeah.
And, actually, my dad recently told me that, Caitlin's my sister, I have to have a relationship with her. And I responded with, the blood of the coven is thicker than the water of the womb. Your ties with your chosen family are stronger than your blood family if you don't have a good family relationship like I do.
Because, I mean, there is toxic family relationships, and I don't think it's wrong to cut them off if they're toxic.
Right.
I mean, if they're not good for your mental health and well-being, then yes, I would. Though I don't, and my dad's a bit, special.
Special.
Well,
yeah.
I love my dad and all that, but he does have issues, and I do have lower self-esteem in some areas because of him.
Yeah.
So,
that's what happened with me and my mom.
And that still is kind of somewhat of an issue for me, but he's been really better lately. He's been on and off different medications, which was half the problem because he's got a lot of mental health issues, and so those influenced the way he was feeling. And he's finally on the right medication. Me and him still don't communicate the greatest ways, but we still get along pretty well, and I don't feel like he's putting me down as often as he did in the past, so.
Yeah. With my dad, actually, like, the communication is not that good because, one, I'm not that good of a communicator, and when I try to communicate with my dad, he's like, no, I'm right.
But you know, with the exchange of woes thing, that is in some degrees caring about each other, because I know it's sometimes good to air your things up and help each other like that. Like, exchanging woes is okay, but you should also give advice to each other after doing that, in my opinion. Otherwise, I feel like it's a complaining contest to see who has it worse.
Yeah. And that's what my sister, I think, tries to do.
Because that's I guess, the main difference is that me and my sister have a good, I guess, a stable emotional relationship that's borders more on the healthy side than the unhealthy side.
Yeah.
Hers is definitely more on the unhealthy side, but I feel like there is some good, healthy relationship interactions that happen every now and then.
Yeah, you're right. Especially, like, when Caitlin was acting extremely buddy-buddy with me and all of that, it was better. But now that I don't really talk to her that much, I don't try to initiate conversations because, in the experience, a lot of the times they don't go well, and I'm just tired of risking having a conversation with her that makes me feel worse when it ends than when it started.
Yeah, and so. I can get that. And like I said, if you feel like something's toxic, it's not good for your mental health. If you feel like it's not good for you and that you don't want to feel that way anymore and you think the only way to do that is cut someone off, do that. Because, I mean, some people are hard to change, you know, and they're not going to change some people. So it's like, you gotta wait, you know, maybe wait a few years, see if they changed or not, maybe try again.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, I'm not gonna judge someone for cutting off a relationship that they don't think is healthy. I mean, that's just, I always found that a weird thing that people do. They're like, oh no, you should keep trying. I mean, you're the family, you know, your family, or you're really close to them when you're this age, and it's like, dudes, if it's not working, it's not working.
Right.
Don't force people to stay in a toxic relationship. Not cool, man.
Yeah, and like in 5 or 10 years, like maybe she'll like be doing better and
yeah,
all
maybe
that.
she'll have more emotional support, or you know, be more straightened out. Maybe she saw a therapist. We don't know.
Right.
But maybe she'll have more. She'll know how to handle herself and her emotions just a bit better.
Right. So.
Because sometimes you need someone to teach you those things. Like my mom had to teach me a lot of emotional tools because I'm ADHD, so I didn't.
Yeah.
And ADHD can impact behavior, and I had a very hard time understanding emotions when I was younger to some degree. It's not like I didn't understand them; it's more like I didn't notice them happening. If that makes any sense.
Interesting.
Like my sister would be upset with me, but I couldn't tell she was upset with me because I wasn't paying attention to her face. I was paying attention to the situation.
Okay.
Like her reaction was funny.
Oh. That's interesting. I actually haven't really heard about that.
So my mom would be like, look at her face. Does she look happy? And I'd be like, I'd have to stare for a bit and then decide yes or no. Most of the time it was no. I think there was one time I answered yes, but that was me trying to be funny as a child. I knew the face meant no. Goodbye, everyone. Hope you liked it.
I hope you liked it. It wasn't really supposed to be funny, but if you found it funny, go see a therapist. And we'll see you next time.